Free is always better.
The
The sound coming from me?
No, my sound. There we
Oh,
go.
got it.
All right, guys. Now you should be able to hear me. Someone's probably a million people probably commented. We can't hear you. You can't. Yeah, there they go. All right, can you guys hear me now? Guys, comment in the thing. This is why this is the pre-show. Hello, can you hear me? I see you just commented now. It's fine now. Yeah. For some reason, it just like randomly decides it's just not going to take my microphone. I have to like tell it to do. So this is why we have the pre-show element to it. But yeah, very nice. So yeah, if you're commenting on YouTube or whatever else, feel free. That's good. If you are on Inleo, make sure you comment, and I will upvote some comments for sure. And then I'll retroactively use the Dash account to do that. The Dash account's voting mana is like 59%, and my own one is like 44%. So like, I kind of went crazy. Mine was like almost always at 99% or something, and then I went crazy voting on one threadcast, just everything, and then burn myself out.
Threadcasts are such a good way to just blow a bunch of voting power.
Yeah. So I'll be a little, because of my low voting power, I'll be a little more selective with what I upvote from thing, but I'll try to burn out most of my voting power on this thing. Just get a lot of people over that minimum. Yeah, the 15.
Yeah, and we'll be sorry to cut you off. We'll be using Leo.voter and a bunch of my accounts for voting as well. So, and then also 3Speak's going to be in the Threadcast, and then the OCD team as well. We're getting them all to vote. So definitely trying to give everyone a little boost here and getting the Threadcast. Also, because a lot of them probably don't even know what a Threadcast is. So
yeah, I would really like to get to a point where I have an account that has mega power, where I can just like bless people with comments and like actually get them. Every once in a while, I get like the Leo voter account like starts voting for me, and then I'm just like, oh, this post is now good.
It feels good.
Yeah. Kind of feel like
I think we still got to set up the Leo power delegations to the Dash account and also then to your personal one. So maybe after this, I'll set that up too.
Yeah. It is kind of funny. Like, obviously, being a little bit of a whale helps. I get the vibe that in Leo is a very, very much of like a minnow space. Like, there's a lot of like, regular folk interacting and stuff, and maybe it's just my corner of in Leo, but probably it's just like a regular people type of a thing. So that's always good to know.
Yeah, I think we got a good spread. I like the distribution of Leo. We've got 5 years of just grinding pretty organically. So that's one thing I think we've got in our corner advantage-wise.
Yeah, for sure. It is kind of funny to see how long it's been going for, because it kind of gives the vibe of like something that was like, relatively recently done. Like the rate of progress is just like a very go. But then like the years in the game of this is kind of interesting to see. Which it's like every overnight success, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. One time,
we've been in a sprint. We've been in a sprint for 5 years.
One time said in the Threadcast, looks like you're in the same room sitting next to each other. Yeah, kind of. I mean, it does look like the same, except the bookshelves don't align. What if I got a bookshelf that was just like yours, and then people would be like, "Oh no, they like must work."
That'd be hilarious.
No, we're not in the same time zone even one time, so don't worry about that. Yeah, all right. So that's enough people, enough engagement. Let's just get this thing officially going. I'm going to hit the intro. All right, 3, 2, 1, go. So, hey everyone. Happy Friday officially. This is the Digital Cash Rundown, episode 178. So that means I've been doing this well in excess of 178 weeks in a row. Definitely had a few that I took off. I believe, I don't remember if it was last week. I was going to take this week off because in America it's Thanksgiving and therefore there's not a lot of stuff, and I don't want to, but I figured, hey, Khal seems like he's in go mode. I don't think he's taking days off. I don't need to take days off. So figured we'd do this. So welcome everyone. This is on YouTube and on Odysee and on X. And there is you can comment on any of those live chats and I'll try my best to keep up with it. But it's also on an InLeo threadcast. So if you use InLeo, which if you don't, you're kind of a punk, whatever. But you should. InLeo is a new social network, newish social network, I should say, that just had a partnership with Dash, which we'll talk about more towards the end of the show. But basically, it's like X, but you can get paid for upvoting stuff and getting upvoted and all that. So on my profile in InLeo, there's something called a threadcast, which is just like a live chat. So if you go there, now I lost my original handle or whatever, so mine on InLeo is the Dessert Linux. And so you can probably figure out how to spell that. Just go in there, and if you have an InLeo account, start commenting. There you go. So, someone got a Discord notification. It must be, there's the last Dash. There's got to be a new Dash person. So anyway, yeah, all that stuff. Good to have you here, Khal, by the way. Quiet again.
Good to be here.
Oh, there we go.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for having me back. Excited to keep diving deep on digital cash and everything Dash.
Yeah, absolutely. Last time I had you on was the Dash podcast, where it's just much more of like a community AMA and an interview sort of combo type deal. And now we're just doing the usual news shit posting, and we'll get, but we'll get into the because we made some news this week, and so we'll have to get into that. So. Let's just start diving into the stuff. So let me just go, and remember, leave comments, etc., questions, metaphysical speculations, all that stuff, and we'll get into that. So first, I gotta shill Coin ATM Radar because they're awesome for sponsoring this podcast. So this podcast is indeed sponsored by Coin ATM Radar. When buying crypto with cash, an ATM is much more reliable and safer than meeting some random person in a random place. And unlike an exchange, which could freeze your account, you truly own all the crypto you buy. With Coin ATM Radar, you can find crypto ATMs and other services where you can buy or sell cryptos for cash. On their website, search by coin, address. If the ATM supports selling as well as buying, you can also search by geo area, such as country, state, city, etc. And also, you can check and compare actual current fees at different ATMs. Find out more, go to coinatmradar.com, which is coinatmradar.com. Those guys are always good. I have seen them. They saw my spicy posts on X and were like, "We like you. We want to sponsor you." And if you look at their posts on X, they're also quite spicy and principled and stuff. So that's probably one of the next things on my agenda list, to see if I could get them posting to InLeo instead, or in addition, I should say, and get them on board. All right, so this first thing right here, let me see. So first, the Tornado Cash story, right? Have you been following much of the whole Tornado Cash thing?
Yeah, I've been following a little bit of the Tornado Cash saga. I admittedly haven't fully read into the briefing, but I have skimmed it.
Yeah. So basically, the news is the Fifth Circuit Court rules that that OFAC overstepped its authority sanctioning Tornado Cash, reversing a prior judgment finding software within the scope of the IEPA. So basically, for those people who haven't paid any kind of attention at all, if you have paid attention, then I'm not going to really say anything that's going to educate you very well. But Tornado Cash is a smart contract on Ethereum that provides some extra privacy if you do it. And from people who know about how smart contracts work, you write it as open source code and you deploy it and it just runs. And you can't, once it's out there, it's running, you can't do anything about it. So basically, because of some, alleged North Korean, whatever else kind of usage of this smart contract, the OFAC sanctioned addresses, basically saying like funds are sanctioned if they interact with Tornado Cash related addresses. And basically, usually you sanction an entity, like a misbehaving entity of some kind. But this is not an entity, it's just software. You're sanctioning open source software, which is crazy. And right away, some people use Tornado Cash to then send some funds to all kinds of celebrities and people like that with public donation addresses to basically implicate as many people as possible as a way of kind of saying, like, come on, this is a ridiculous rule. You're not going to arrest, Ashton Kutcher now because he got some Tornado Cashed, stuff. And so that was the most ridiculous part of the Tornado Cash situation that seems to now be reversed. Unfortunately, the Tornado Cash founders are still in legal trouble, and it's very upsetting, and I hope that they have more success now that part of the ruling has been reversed. But yeah, that's kind of the overview of the situation. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I remember when they got arrested and it became kind of big news in the space, just because I think the general thing is regulation, broadly speaking, in crypto is just so unclear. So then to be, essentially a developer, and obviously, myself being a developer and builder in the space, seeing developers and builders just get kind of blindsided like this, I think was a big problem, and is still a big problem today, obviously, with just the regulatory capture and overreach. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this ruling, and I think it kind of falls in line with a lot of the other rulings we've seen recently when it comes to crypto over the past really kind of 6 to 8 months, which has been, almost like a kind of 180 in terms of how courts and jurisdictions and governments are looking at crypto and the technology being built here. It's suddenly flipped from being super strict, like putting the Tornado Cash, devs in jail, to being, almost like a complete, like, okay, we're actually on your side. We're siding with, and I know that this court ruling had a lot to do with, the idea of the smart contracts and it being, not controlled, but actually being programmable code. Mm-hmm. Very much like Bitcoin. Like, if, and that's my opinion as well, is like, if something's just programmed code and you put it out in the world, essentially, like, who is at fault for misusing it? I think is kind of the key question here. And, with something like Tornado Cash, it's like, it's not the person who created the code. It's the person who used the code maliciously. This, in very much the same way, it's like, you don't sue a gun manufacturer when someone shoots another person. It's the person's fault. And if you relate that to cash, the number one currency in the world for doing illegal things is cash, like physical cash. So are you going after the government for issuing cash, or are you going after the people who, took that tool and used it maliciously?
Yeah. And in this case, everything you're saying makes perfect logical sense, makes perfect freedom sense, makes perfect everything sense. It does make sense why the government would go after something like that, though, because any entity that has power does not want to relinquish power, wants more power. And even it's not like a power hungry, militia, even though it is, it's not necessarily even that. There's even a steelman argument of entities saying, like, well, we need to catch criminals, and so any tool that makes it easier for criminals to get away is not good, and we'd like to have as much power as possible. And so that's what you start to see when there's new tech that comes out, then that makes things outside of government's control, direct control at least, then they start finding ways of trying to crack down on it because it makes their lives harder. And unfortunately, you can't just say, like, if you banned, a certain, if you banned any kind of face covering or like ski mask or anything, or a beard even, or anything like that, just to like, because it's easier for law enforcement to identify potential criminals. Like, I'm sure that would make some people's jobs easier, but that's ludicrous. Like, can you imagine doing that? Absolutely not. Like, just say, you know, it's one of those cases where I'm really glad there was some sanity, and there's this constant pushback between like people and their government, right? And at some point, like, governments just can do everything they can, and at some point you have to have like a court system hopefully is functioning, and more importantly, popular outcry that kind of does this. And so there's always the French economist Frederick Bastiat had a saying about what is seen and what is not seen when talking about the economy, about like how things work. Sometimes you think, oh, this has this effect, and you don't see necessarily other effects that it has. And I'm sure that some people who advocated for, you know, censoring sanctioning a smart contract like that, see like, oh, this will have an effect of cracking down on laundering and sanctions evasion and all this kind of other kind of stuff. And they just say, oh, it's a no-brainer. But then the other side of things is the chilling implications of criminalizing code and criminalizing open source developers really has some very negative immediate impacts, but then also long term, where now you have a bunch of innovators who are afraid to build, and or they leave to other countries and then they innovate in those countries, and then the US like loses out on all that intellectual and financial capital and everything. It just like these horrible knock-on effects. And then another if you assume perfect morality of this last administration, which I don't do, even if you did, the next one could and the one after that could very well use that to just crack down on all open source tech and just corral people into centralized platforms and tech that can be completely under the government control, which then leads to a totalitarian system, which then you have the genocide start happening and stuff. It starts to get really bad after that. So yeah, it's I get the thinking behind it, but this is like a really glad reversal of everything, going back to, you know, code is not law. You know, code is not illegal.
Right. Yeah, I think you know, I think it's really important. The point you made about builders not being afraid to build is so important, and I think, you know, and obviously speaking from a kind of more U.S. perspective, like having a, you know, body in power that is supportive of innovation and building stuff, I think is really important. And if there isn't, I think a big point here, whether it's the Tornado Cash ruling or broadly speaking rulings about, you know, innovative technologies in general, it should be, in my opinion, you know, if there isn't a specific explicit law preventing you from doing something and saying that something specifically is bad, then it should err on the side of being favorable to the person building. Mm-hmm. You know, because frankly, like something like a Tornado Cash wasn't imagined, you know, back in 1776. Like they didn't imagine, hey, one day you're going to have a, you know, digital system that can, you know, mix currencies together and give, you know, the average person a private way to move money around through the air. So obviously, you know, laws need to be flexible enough to allow innovation like that to happen, because we want things, you know, whether it's that specifically or a different innovation that's adjacent to it, you want those things to be in the world, but you know, you want them to be done as morally as possible. So I would just say there's kind of two key points for me is one, you know, building something and putting it out into the world as a tool shouldn't give you the liability of how people use that tool necessarily. And two, you know, it should err on the side of being favorable to the person innovating and kind of giving them the room to breathe that they need to be futuristic and think about these things and actually do them.
Yeah, for sure. One thing is also sure as we have this crazy brave new world of technology, of open source tech that changes everything, and I think for the better. And a lot of that is it innovates past the need for these kinds of state enforced limitations on certain activity. It just makes things open. And like in the past, every single technological innovation has had things like that. If you go into like the invention of writing, obviously you had like scholars and like priests and things like that who were very good at transcribing, but then they did not, when most of the world was illiterate, they controlled that supply of information, and then even would criminalize like reprinting of certain books. Then the printing press was like the original internet, sort of, that just allowed anyone with a large complicated machine, but still just a machine, to just spread knowledge. And then there was bans for the printing press or things like that. Like, it got pretty bad. And then you have modern newspapers and things, or modern, like newspapers, physical newspapers and things like that, and television channels, where it's really easy to then control and set up like a narrow like area of free-flowing information. And then the internet came, and everyone can do that. And then they're trying to control the internet, and each thing they lose, like the ability to control goes down and down and down. And I think that's a good thing. But not just is a good thing, but this is just the new world, and trying to ascribe old world approaches. It's like, well, we used to control the old world this way. We should control the new world. One, you can't, and two, it was not a good idea before. Like the way you control and sanction these kinds of things. So I'm very happy about that. But touch on this the Swan thing, the Hodl tax, because that's kind of there's a lot of nuance to this one in terms of, and also I like starting some nonsense. But anyway, so Swan, which is a Bitcoin maximalist exchange, basically said their custodian, Fortress, is passing a fee for up to $125 per account, an admin fee. And they said something about they're trying to fight it and stuff, but basically it sounds like it is still applying to people. And so basically, Bitcoin custodians being charged a fee for this. So first of all, before I get into my old pontification of like what I think the greater implications of this were, which is kind of that, do you have any thoughts about Swan or kind of the situation they're in?
Yeah, I've never used it. My thoughts around it are pretty similar to just crypto in general. And when I got into this space originally, a very long time ago, Andreas Antonopoulos was, the big cheese when it came to learning about Bitcoin and this industry. And the not your keys, not your crypto is what comes to mind when I read a story like this.
Yeah, of course. It's definitely, and by the way, comment from one time earlier, hi one time again, privacy is not a crime, it's a human right. Money needs privacy. I do agree with that. So yes, the custodial thing is kind of interesting because this could just be a blip in the radar, right? Just some random Bitcoin exchange just charging people a fee to, maybe not through their, and they say that's not their choice, but it's still customers of this exchange are being charged a holding fee, and similar to like a bank account, last I remember at least, like charging like a certain amount if you don't have a certain monthly balance or something like that. And so it seems like a blip on the radar, except in the greater context of this thing called the Hodl tax. So as I point out, so Bitcoin Magazine, I'm going to throw up my post on the thing. And this is, feel free to dig into this a little bit more later because it's interesting. So I did this whole is Bitcoin going to introduce a fee for hodling? And I said controversial take at the end, bookmark this so you come back and see I was right. So for the longest time, Bitcoin has not properly scaled on-chain, and the ways that people have used Bitcoin have not generated more fees to the base network, which means basically the money to pay the miners to secure the network is going to start to go away as the inflation rate goes down year after year. And that could be a problem. And so basically what I predicted is at some point, miners and institutions like custodians would have to pay the fees to the miner, basically whether they have to pay huge per transaction fees to shuffle around money, or they have to actually run mining machines themselves to keep Bitcoin running and secure. Either way, they would have to pay for it, and they would pass those fees on to the consumer. And that's the way this thing called the concept of the hodl tax would practically happen. That's what I predicted. It was also in response to a Bitcoin Magazine article that said, where someone was actually saying everyone's Bitcoin should be kind of gradually appropriated in terms of a fee, just to pay for the network. Kind of like a tail emission where you have infinite small inflation, but in this case, you don't actually print more coins, you just take people's coins. So basically a protocol level hodl tax, which kind of got really a ton of drama, and a bunch of people basically pushed back against that. And I kind of just said, it's not realistic protocol level, but will probably happen through institutions in practice. So that was that, and I just sort of like brought back up the hodl tax in context of this thing. That's like, it's starting to happen where people have their money in institutions, not self-custody because it's expensive. And then as a result of that, they start having fees levied against them, which is a controversial, spicy take, whatever. I'd like to know what you think.
Yeah, I think people will try to find a way to, especially when you get all these TradFi players. I agree with you in your earlier, predictions from a few months ago, is that, you get these TradFi players in, and frankly, they only know how to do one thing, and that is to, tax and fee their way to enrichment. So I'm frankly not super surprised about stuff like this. I did see in the Swan story that it seems to be, they're offering to cover some of the Bitcoin fees to make up for this, admin fee. So I still think there's like people in crypto that will try to find a way to make it okay, and I think that's what Swan's trying to do is kind of like subsidize the admin fees. And I think we're kind of, we went from an era of crypto being essentially fully self-custody. Like if you wanted to be in this space, there was like Coinbase, came onto the scene, but really if you wanted to be serious about this space, you were self-custody. There was no, there wasn't institutional custody, definitely. And there wasn't even really retail custody. So, and then after Mt. Gox, which I remember, obviously everyone became very big on self-custody. So, we're kind of in the era of, we went from fully self-custody to kind of like, hybrid custody where, people now have a lot more options to store their crypto. And I think now we're kind of entering another interesting era, which is like, the old crypto people, more OGs are obviously storing their crypto self-custody and following that rule. Like I said, your keys, your crypto. And then you've got, these bankers coming in, and I know Michael Saylor made, huge headlines when he started talking about the yield of Bitcoin and the fact that they're using, Coinbase custody. And that, obviously sent waves through the industry. So we're kind of in this interesting era now where we're moving even from like hybrid custody to, really like TradFi is starting to put their, dip their fingers in the pie of the industry. So I think it's really kind of up to, it's really up to us as the people that mostly use, crypto is still primarily retail, which is a unique thing when it comes to finance. So, it's really up to us as retail to kind of decide where the ship is going to go. If we all give up our crypto to these, custodians because they entice us with, supposedly better security and perhaps even yield. I know that that's a big way that they draw people in. We'll just fall into the TradFi banking system again, but be using, digital cryptocurrencies instead of cash.
Yeah, for sure. It is interesting when you mentioned like the TradFi world coming in, and definitely that seems to be the Bitcoin path. I mean, there's a lot of arguments about the Bitcoin is sort of like, Mike Hearn famously said, the Bitcoin is being hot-wired for settlement. That was about a little over 8 years ago, kind of pushed in that direction, caused a lot of drama, but it does seem like Bitcoin's on that track to be kind of like the boomer coin of the pack, where not a lot of people interact with it on the actual end user side of things. That basically it's for institutions and large players, and then the smaller players have like Bitcoin exposure through owning company stock in this or through IRAs or whatever other investment vehicles. And so it is kind of becoming that institutional thing where then now you will have to pay management fees for this kind of thing for the most part, but it still has that cypherpunk origin. So some people will still have their own self custody, and that'll be kind of like people with gold bullion stashed behind their kitchen stove instead of, or gold coins instead of having like a gold ETF or something. And so it's kind of transitioning that same level. It is very interesting how I do think that the Bitcoin not crypto mantra has sort of come true in a certain sense, where crypto users, I think that crypto is as self-custodial as ever, I would say. Probably even more because you need self-custody to do DeFi. And the whole crypto space has kind of moved, that's not Bitcoin, has moved very much in that direction, where you have like people posting their content on chain to Hive right now in Threadcast and receiving all their coins and upvotes, rewards all there. You have people with like the Maya protocol and Thorchain, and then obviously Uniswap and all rest of the host of DeFi ecosystems, all with their own MetaMask or Keystore wallets or whatever it is, just doing that. And then, you know, the Solana meme coin traders, you know, you have to put the meme coins on chain. You have to do that yourself. And so crypto is, as a user first kind of technologist industry, is really moving into even more, I would say, into self-custody. Maybe, I don't know if more than the original crypto vision, but maybe at least holding the line, if not going even more self-custodial. Whereas then the Bitcoin side of things seems to be migrating to just the custodial managed asset class where you're going to pay management fees. At least that's how it's looking to be. Let me look around for some of these comments here, see if anyone in the Threadcast said anything spicy about that. Zero Dart, who by the way is a Zcash community guy that I got into in Leo before the Dash integration thing, says new Solana meme coins have made self-custody quite normal already. So meme coins have a positive side. Yes. And I would say meme coins and upvote earned. I wouldn't say meme coins on their own have made, but meme coins as just people using the chain have made a positive element to it. Of course, there's a bunch of crazy stuff that's kind of happened too, surrounding that whole thing, but whatever. And then Tullwave Dash says, I love how Khal just throws down TradFi. I had to look it up. Yeah, TradFi, you know, I mean, traditional finance. It is kind of funny how like all these terms for the terms for legacy money and finance are really starting to become invented by the crypto world, where it's like fiat. Fiat was kind of like a hardcore econ nerd libertarian term, and then just ended up becoming adopted with crypto, and now it's like semi-mainstream to call it. And then of course DeFi, for decentralized finance, came before the term TradFi, even though TradFi kind of, you know, and TradFi, TradWife, Trad everything. It's kind of funny. So someone said, wait, so Swan is a person? I thought it was a company/service. It is a company/service. It's also a brand of waterfowl. So anyway, let's switch on to the V4V post that they made about Lightning, which is kind of rolls into this whole better kind of discussion. So V4V, which is a Hive app that, amongst other things, lets you swap Hive for instant Lightning payments. So you could use your Hive stablecoins anywhere where the Lightning network is accepted. Said, unfortunately, I can't avoid this now. Alby appears to be deliberately geo-blocking Israel, and this affects their so-called self-custody Alby HUD. Large amounts of Alby hub functionality fail if you're censored by it. Get Alby. So they basically have a V4V basically uses this Lightning service provider to route payments, and they're starting to block Israel in particular. And so that's now disrupting the V4V app, which is kind of very sad. Kind of people, it doesn't seem like, I haven't heard of any self-custody Bitcoin services able to do something like this. This is purely in the Lightning sphere of things. So it's one of those things that unfortunately with the whole Bitcoin shift seems to be affecting more users now with Lightning. So yeah, any thoughts on this whole thing? I know Brian of London and some of the other people involved a little bit, probably better than I do, maybe, even though I do know them.
Yeah, I last time I saw Brian was also at Hive Fest in Croatia. We were talking about P4V and obviously a lot of different things. It's kind of it's kind of interesting to see how you can have a lot of like regulatory, and this is a big theme in crypto. I feel like you've got wins on one side and you've got losses on the other side, simultaneously, which is just really interesting. Like, in a lot of ways, regulation is easing up on crypto, but then you still have things like this happening. So yeah, I don't really have a huge opinion specifically on like the Albi service that he uses, but I think it's again, it's an effect of what we just talked about, which is crypto kind of transitioning from being a cypherpunk full self-custody industry to being kind of a hybrid industry, and now to being a hybrid industry with a pretty heavy TradFi influence, especially when it comes to Bitcoin and Lightning Network. I think this is again, and you can I'm curious to hear your opinion on it. Another reason why other cryptocurrencies are so important outside of just having Bitcoin. And I know you're going to be opinionated on that, on having digital cash outside of Bitcoin. But you've got all the Bitcoin maxis saying you don't need other coins. There is no second best. Bitcoin is the only thing that should matter and exist. But then you see things like this happening, and then I think it kind of gives way to saying, maybe the more options we have, the better. It's strength and unity in a certain way that all cryptocurrencies, or at least most of them, are kind of aiming at the same core ideals. So if you all aim at those ideals but approach it slightly differently, you're going to be a lot harder to take down as an industry than if you're just one network.
Yeah, here's the thing. The strength in numbers is always a thing, right? It's if you always want to have something that achieves network effect in order for it to actually have enough power and meaning to really make it. And I do get that part. And I think that in the early days of crypto, like people from like my generation, somewhere around 2017, right around the block size war era, Bitcoin's market dominance dropped precipitously from like 85%, like almost overnight, and went under 50%. That's when Ethereum really took off in the beginning. And since then, I mean, what is it, like 57% now or whatever? But up until that point, basically, the whole crypto space was a bunch of people experimenting on chains. That's when they were called altcoins. People still call them, but it's kind of, altcoins is like a dated term these days almost. But everyone sort of was like, oh, I'm the project founder and head of a crypto, but I still push Bitcoin first because that gets us all ahead. And I think that that's shifted majorly now that, first of all, Bitcoin's reached mainstream consciousness. So now you don't have to push it first and foremost. Now you can start going into other things. But also, Bitcoin failed at that very number one task of digital cash, like the digital money that underpins everything. And so because of that, now it's not sufficient. Now when you push it as like a backing asset or something like that, it does improve things over obviously fiat, but is also, I would say, in some ways worse, but most ways like a better version of gold. And it has benefits, but then if I want to live sovereign, I can't just rely on Bitcoin anymore. And so then you need other things to do other things. Now there is an interesting, like Bitcoin maximalist especially, but like the Bitcoin world, I don't think there's a single layer one maximalist for Bitcoin out there anymore. You know, maybe personally who just want to use the Bitcoin chain wherever they can. But I think everyone who's still using Bitcoin understands like a layer two strategy is literally the only way you can use it these days, because any kind of L1 like growth is just politically infeasible at this point. It's just never going to happen unless there's an existential crisis. So the basically everyone subscribes to the idea that you need other things to use Bitcoin. You need other layers to be able to transact using the Bitcoin value. Now, the I guess maximalist sanctioned L2s, just including Lightning, just haven't worked out super well. What I think, and I had this article, which is it's my only article on X so far, but also it's on in Leo and Hive, obviously. I think it's one of the more recent ones, called the Bitcoin about avoiding the Bitcoin death spiral. And I do towards the end, I do have this breakdown of basically I think that other chains are going to start transacting Bitcoin's value in a way that can be kind of trusted. And I know that I think that like the VSC, I'm pretty sure, is doing some sort of wrapped Bitcoin thing like that, or at least will enable that. They're another Hive project that does, EVM stuff. But basically, even in a Bitcoin maximalist world sort of thing, you'll still need a ton of different, at least a few different other blockchains that work to transmit Bitcoin's value and do things with it that Bitcoin can't itself do. And so, yeah, it's going to at least be kind of necessary under that thing. Although, it's them or it's tech companies, or it's like, it's like Swan. So either Swan helps you move around your Bitcoin or whatever, Coinbase does, or Kraken, or all of them. Either they transmit your Bitcoin, or you get an actual decentralized blockchain that can't be censored that bridges Bitcoin over. And I have an interview with someone who's working on something like that coming up on my channel relatively soon, and I'll make sure to share that everywhere around when that happens. So yeah, that's kind of that big old thing. Let me just look in and see what other people are saying. Vic Van says, looks like it's now that goodies discussed on HighFest are being dished out. Yes, because HighFest was a good thing. So Alex Rourke says, will you consider doing these on Saturdays? Because a bunch of people still need to mine fiat on weekdays. Probably not. It doesn't. The weekends get busy for a lot of people, obviously myself included, but not mostly myself. And then other people, a lot of people who get on are like in the crypto industry somehow, so they get to do this during work hours, So that kind of helps. But if there's ever a demand for some sort of a weekend live anything or more evening time in the week, etc., I wouldn't mind doing that at some point. So one time I had a question that I believe maybe Khal, you want to take a stab at, because I've had plenty of different things. He says, how would you describe good money? Is it a subjective concept? Is money a compromise, or is there one objective best solution for money? Is perfect soundness important? That could be like an hour-long thing. Do you have a do you have a kind of like a hot take on what you consider to be good money for you?
Yeah, I like the way that you put that what would be good money for you. I think that's, an extremely important point, is that I think good money is different for everybody. So, good money for me would be, in my mind, it would be, readily available, is not losing value, is also not really gaining value. So I would say, in my opinion, good money isn't something that I want to spend and use in my daily life, is something that doesn't fluctuate in terms of value. And, so I would say reliable, steady in terms of value, widely accessible and usable. So I don't want to, walk into, 10 different stores and have 3 of them say they'll accept that money, but then the other 7 want different forms of money. So it needs to be widely accessible, reliable, and a steady price, in my view, for me to think it's good money. And I think that can be very different for other people. So, if you're in another country, perhaps you're in like Nigeria or somewhere across the world, good money to you might be significantly different. And the threshold of what better money is, so what is better than your local currency, is also going to be a lot lower than what it is for me. So like, in the U.S., like the U.S. dollar is honestly pretty good money. Like it's not great for certain reasons, like it's losing value over time, and all the other issues with it. But that being said, I still don't consider it to be bad money necessarily, and perhaps that's a hot take for someone that's been in this crypto industry for almost 10 years now. But I do still believe that U.S. dollars are decent money. But I think crypto offers us the potential for great money because of and I think that a lot of it has to do with the variance. So between the different cryptocurrencies and different use cases and the evolving ability to spend it and the speed of settlements. I think that crypto is offering great money in a world where and I think that that's a big thing, is like some of us already have decent money, others have horrible money. Like I mentioned Nigeria, and you can go to other countries like Venezuela where there's rapid devaluation. So it evens the playing field, and I think that is that's my opinion of the great money narrative that crypto brings to the world.
Yeah, and I've rambled on this a whole bunch, so I'll keep my take brief, which is money is a tool, a technology, and it's a tool just like anything else. And it's a tool for communicating value. And basically, it should do that well. And which sounds like a super simplistic way of like, oh, well, what does that mean? But then you think about a language and a communication protocol of some kind. So I want a language that allows me to accurately communicate my thoughts. So if it's a limiting language, it's not good. It should be easy to use. Like I should be able to do it. I should be able to communicate to anyone in the world, which some of that is like a communication protocol, like social media. Can I post something and everyone gets it? But also, do they understand the language? And that's where the network effect comes in handy, where it's like, if I'm speaking a language no one else can understand, it's not yet that good of a language. So you do need some network effects. But then also, can I tell everyone about it? Is it hard or costly to talk with it? Can I whisper if I just want one person to hear? Can I do that? Does it serve all my communication needs, my value communication needs? And more importantly, can I speak without being silenced? That's huge for me personally. And all those kind of allegories to speech, if money is speech, right? Money's speaking value. We speak value. Then I want money to do all of those kinds of things. Now, of course, then people start to split hairs and define, well, money is different for like the base money is different from a currency, like unit of account, which a payment trade clearing mechanism is different from that, and blah, blah, blah. So therefore money, yeah, okay. All that is true in observation of what exists today. But at the same time, money is a invention, right? It's not like, oh, well, good money has to be this because it's ordained by the Lord. Like, no, people naturally coalesced around a technology that served their purpose the best. And it became a generational concept, like a multi-generational concept of money, that we have this thing to communicate our value and store it as well. So at some point, maybe you have a technology that can do everything, where you can store and communicate the value, but you can also account, do the actual unit of account stuff that's built into the tech too. And you can also send it without processors or trade clearing mechanism. That's all built into the core technology. And then you obsolete some other things. That could be it. But also, and this is where it gets weird, I think that when you have I think that there's stuff that the language of money does not communicate yet, that's just completely left off the table. And now when you have a bunch of different tokens and points and things like that, we have the ability to communicate other values that we haven't done before. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, cause I know you're coming up close to time to split. So let's touch on the big news that everyone should be, the not news, but Inleo partners with Dash. So basically, Inleo, this fantastic social media site, which I think you may have a part in, that runs on the Hive blockchain, has basically integrated a Dash function, a way to log in with the Dash wallet and get payouts in Dash. And so a lot of people are pretty familiar with that. There's some posts, obviously, on the official Dash account and the official Inleo account that kind of go over that and basically say all the details on that. Is there anything else you want to say that we haven't really covered as far as this get paid to post in Dash through Inleo integration?
Yeah, and I feel like the phase we're in right now is join Inleo, earn Dash. So that's kind of where the focus of the message has been, which is obviously we just want to get as many, people from Dash over logged into Inleo and get started earning. So, in this Threadcast, we've been, and while we've been on, I've been just upvoting like a maniac while we've been talking. So I know a lot of you guys already probably noticed that, but yeah, I think the first phase is really just, let's get, Dash people signed up and on the platform and, earning Leo, earning HBD, earning Hive. And then, obviously grow from there and hopefully see you guys, earning more money every month, and being able to cash it out. So, we've definitely covered, I would say, the majority of what is already live and out there. The next step for us and Maya, we were kind of waiting on the Maya team because they were working on, I think it was V112, but we needed the newest version of Maya to be out before we could release the Dash payments. So what that part is being able to buy stuff on Inleo using Dash. So, a whole nother use case in terms of using Dash, which is you'll be able to buy premium and creator subscriptions using Dash. And you'll be able to literally just click a button and it uses your connected key store to pay for things using Dash with whatever Dash wallet is connected. So that's going to be kind of the next step, and I think tipping in Dash is a pretty logical next step from there. I know you said there would be a pretty good use case for that as well, and Inleo obviously runs on a rewards pool right now, so there's no tipping at all. So I think adding Dash as the first tipping currency on the platform would be really cool. So I could see that coming. And yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of signups already, a few hundred accounts. So I'm just pushing to obviously get more signups and get more activity. And then, the more threads and posts that you guys put out there, the more you're going to earn, and then obviously check your dashboard and then be able to cash out to Dash. So I'm pretty happy with the integration so far. What do you think on your side with, all the Dash, the Dash side of things, and then also the PRs?
Yeah, and obviously give me a flag if you have to take off or whatever. I think it's going great. Obviously, it's great to have a fully built tool for people to use to just jump on board. I think that when there's going to be a certain amount of enthusiasm dip for a moment when people have been posting for days and maybe a week or whatever, and then they're like, okay, well, where's my Dash? And then they see the dashboard. And you have to hit a $15 amount of total earnings before it makes sense to swap it via Maya and not lose all your money, right? Not just lose it in fees or whatever. And so, but then once people start getting those actual payouts, it's just your first X payout as a creator or whatever. I think that's going to be cool. It definitely helps that I know a lot of Dash people have key stores. I think that the big improvement was right after launch, pushing that you can make a key store out of any existing Dash wallet. So you just put that seed phrase in and then make a key store file out of it and start using it. It's pretty cool. And I think that the next step is when you can start to associate existing Hive usernames for some of the early adopters to a key store and then just kind of reroute all that stuff. Now, for existing people, like the one button cash out thing, is that something that's sort of at all in the works or on a soon-ish roadmap for people who didn't sign up with a key store, kind of hardwired in there?
Yeah. So as soon as we've got connect an existing Hive account to a key store, the cash out using Dash would be available to anyone who connected a key store. So really, it's kind of the key store is the bottleneck there. So once we get the connections done from existing accounts, then you'll be able to do it that way as well. So yeah, it's really just about getting those connections in place. Obviously, when you sign up with a key store, you already have your Hive account is getting created, and then you're getting the Dash, Bitcoin, ETH wallets all wrapped into the key store. So yeah, as soon as that kind of reverse rail is in place, then yeah, the dashboard can be used if people want to cash out to Dash as an existing user. And I think a big a kind of big counterpoint to that, or something that people talk about, is like selling pressure on Leo, because obviously that's where the majority of those rewards are coming from. They're coming from HBD and Leo. So I think a big piece there is you need to keep in mind the two-sided rail of things. So a user that's cashing out to Dash or cashing out to any potential in the future, anything that's on Maya, and being able to do that from the dashboard, that they will also be able to pay for premium and creator subs using the platform and using their connected key store. So when you have a two-sided economy, I say this a lot because I obviously hear this counterpoint very often. You don't want to lock people into the currency. That's not what you're trying to do. You're not trying to get them to stake and never sell. Obviously, in an ideal world, a lot of people would stake the majority of Leo that they get. But you don't want to force that on people. You want to make the value proposition, positive. So like, staking and having Leo in your account is obviously a good idea. That makes your upvote worth more. And it makes you earn more because you're earning from curation rewards and, in addition to your author rewards. So, staking Leo is generally a pretty good idea, and gets you to earn more on the platform. But that being said, if someone wants to cash out, they're going to find a way to cash out. And I've never been a believer in like locking people into an ecosystem, which I have seen other projects do. So I actually believe make it as easy as possible to cash out. And that will actually be a net positive for the currency and the ecosystem. Because if people know that they can easily cash out, then they're going to be more comfortable, staking and holding and earning and being active on the platform. So there's that side of the argument, and then obviously all the fees and the the revenue capture that Leo has built around these rails. So when you cash out to Dash, you're actually using Leo Dex. It's just all happening on the back end for you, but you're using Leo Dex on Maya to do that cash out. So we're earning obviously the affiliate fees and the bridging fees for Leo. So we have some revenue capture there that perma-buys the Leo token. So I just wanted to throw that in there because I do see, whenever someone cashes out to Dash, they are technically selling the Leo that they earned. But that being said, they're capturing value for the Leo ecosystem by using that button. And then they're also, they're more likely to hold Leo if they know that they can go in and out of it very easily.
Yeah, for sure. We had this question here. I'm sure you might have seen. Thunk said, if I cash out $15 in Dash, can I still stack/stake Leo? I would like my Leo power to grow. Yeah, so for example, just what I'm doing now, because I'm in the Legacy Hive kind of integration thing. Obviously, the Hive power automatically gets added to your account. It's 50-50 Hive power and HBD. Any Leo I've had so far, I've just staked. And the HBD is what I'm planning to use to like cash out. So contrasting with the Dash integration users who would be cashing out that and Leo, is there any way to change a setting where, say, like the Leo gets auto powered up and then, or some of it does, and then you maybe just earn less in Dash then?
Yeah, that's a good point. So right now, the way, like when you cash out, it will actually ask you if you want to stake some percentage of the Leo that you got. So like for example, you can cash out, and then you can say, okay, cash out. Let's say you've earned $20, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and just say it's some mix of HBD and Leo. You can cash out, and then it says it'll have like a little pop up, and it says stake XYZ percentage as Leo, and you can stake say 10% of it as Leo. So then $2 worth of Leo would get staked in your account, and then the other $18 would get cashed out to Dash. So there's that. I do think we should add kind of what you just mentioned with an auto power up. So excuse me. Potentially like having a something in the settings page where you say, okay, just auto stake 10% of the Leo that I earn
Mm-hmm.
in real time, as it's earned. I think that would be a good idea to add in general. Honestly, we don't have that even for existing users.
Yeah, that's definitely something I would like. I would like to have a um like some sort of an auto thing. So probably like I think that maybe a good default might be auto power up half your Leo, auto cash out the other half. So it's sort
Yeah.
of modeling the Hive default. And then someone might just be like, you know what, I just need to do maximum gains at this point, and I just want to like cash out 100%. And like also, um, when you do posts, right, you can on Hive, right, you can opt to get 100% in HBD, right? I could have sworn I saw some setting like that.
So yeah, that's a good question. So you can opt to get 100% as staked Hive on chain. So that's like an on chain feature. There are services where you can get 100% of your payout as liquid HBD. Um,
Yeah.
I think they're still running. I haven't honestly used one.
Mm.
I've never really used one, but I know that they're out there. Um, so yeah, I should probably capture some info on that if anyone's interested in getting more liquid payouts. I do know that they take a pretty hefty percentage because essentially what they're doing is you're setting them as the beneficiary, and then they're like kind of loaning you in a way
Mm-hmm.
the HBD. So it's kind of an interesting system the way that works. And kind of a point on the Hive power side of things is so you're actually earning Hive. You're earning Hive power, you're earning HBD, and you're earning Leo whenever you get upvoted on InLeo. The Hive power part of things actually stays staked in your account. So I know a lot of like Hive people have wondered, is this selling pressure for Hive or HBD? Um, and my counterpoint to that one is that a part of your rewards are getting staked as Hive power in your account automatically. So unless a user manually goes in and unstakes them, they're actually continually stacking more and more Hive power and the Hive crypto in their account.
Yeah, and
And then
power
just the
down takes
liquid
like a
part,
year, doesn't it?
it takes 13 weeks. So yeah, it takes 13 weeks to power down, and honestly, I just think that the HBD and Leo side of things are going to so far outweigh the Hive power side of things, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of cashing out to Dash, so we're actually kind of in a way we're helping people stack and stake Hive,
Absolutely.
without actually having to do much. They're just using the platform and being active.
Yeah. So other than just like the associate Hive username with existing key store, like that kind of stuff, I guess the feature request on that thing, at least from my side, might be cash out settings, cash out mode, where I like the idea of making it simple. So you could just do it like regular is 50-50, right? 50% from the Hive ecosystem, 50% of Leo gets staked, and 50% gets cashed out. And then you could do max gains, which is just 100% of Leo gets sold. And then you could also do max growth, where now 100% of your payout in Hive goes to Hive power, and 100% of your Leo gets staked. So, like for example, someone who wants to be a content creator and wants to like have a good, they want to build an account, like a business, for example. They might create an account, buy a year of premium, and then set their rewards to max power up for the first 6 months. So then they don't actually cash in anything. All of their rewards just go to growing their account's power. And then after that, they switch to a more reasonable like cash out option. Maybe that would be good. Have those three big options, like the regular option, the give me the money now option and the long-term growth option. And of course you could switch them up.
Yeah, I think I think having those settings is a good idea, just to have like presets kind of in a way, because like obviously you can do all the things you just said, manually, but giving people like the easy one click option to do something is really important. So yeah, I know we've already added it for the actual cash out button where it asks you if you want to stake some percentage as Leo, and you obviously can choose 0% or you can choose 100%. But yeah, I think in the settings page, having some other presets would be a cool idea as well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, let's wrap this thing up then before you
Cool.
annoy everyone who's, doing stuff. All right, so Shill O'Clock. People go inleo.io, sign up with Keystore. If you already have a crypto wallet, you could put in that seed phrase to create the Keystore. Password protect it, save it into a little file, use that to log in. Then just start posting, upvoting stuff, getting upvoted yourself. And you're going to get, when you hit like a $15 threshold, you get an auto cash out to Dash to your wallet if you pick the Dash theme. And yeah, that's kind of it. And then half of what you get from the Hive side of stuff gets to powering up your account anyway, which helps. So that's about it. Anything I missed for the Express Shill right there?
No, I think you hit it all. Yeah, I'm excited to see a lot of new faces. So I saw at least 15, 20 new faces in the Threadcast while we were just live. So I've been in there upvoting all of you guys, and I replied to a few of you over text with some questions. So just wanted to make sure that everything got covered. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yep. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll come back through with the Dash account and upvote some of the best comments here. And then I'll have no voting power for the foreseeable future, probably. Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you guys next week. I have a bunch of interesting interviews coming out on the channel as well. And 3Speak, get working again because I want to publish those on 3Speak as well. All right. Bye-bye, guys. Have a good weekend.